I'm from central Pennsylvania, which, like many other Rust Belt communities, had a dying industry, which is coal. Many coal boom towns popped up in central PA. West Virginia is probably hit even harder. So now these areas are the cheapest and poorest places to live in the country. But somehow, although workers had terrible conditions, these companies came in, they destroyed our resources, extracted our wealth, took it away. Somehow, Donald Trump still ran on bringing coal back. So, how do you get an area like this, like West Virginia, like some parts of New York and Ohio? How do you get these areas to get along with a green economy and believe it can work and that it can benefit them?
Well, besides coal country, all the Rust Belt cities, I live in one, Syracuse, New York, and all the factories are gone, and people are now working for a half to a third of what they got in the factories a generation before doing service jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's a whole belt across, upstate New York through the Midwest, and then there's coal country. And so, what I've been campaigning for is what we call a Green New Deal. That's where the jobs are. And the Green New Deal that I'm putting out there is a big public investment. It's $27.5 trillion over 10 years to get us to 100% clean energy and zero to negative carbon emissions by the year 2030, because that's what we got to do in developed countries like a rich country like the United States to avoid the worst consequences of climate change. And that's a life or death issue in itself. But that $27.5 trillion creates 38 million jobs. And when we release this budget, it's on my website at howiehawkins.us. It's a budget for an eco-socialist Green New Deal. And we said at the time, the problem is not the capital, because we can raise the money. The problem is not the technology, because we've got it. The problem is finding enough workers.
Mm-hmm.
Or now with this coronavirus depression, we got work for people. And what we want to do in places like coal country, like the Rust Belt cities, is put Green New Deal factories in them, linked to new agriculture that is organic and regenerative. So we're rebuilding soils and get away from the biocides, the pesticides, and the herbicides. And also have a farm support program where we have parity pricing for all commodities, not just the big ones like cotton and corn and soy, but all the fruits and vegetables and dairy, so that farmers are guaranteed a living income above their production costs.
Mm-hmm.
And have supply management. So we have, a government program to help the farmers. The agricultural feedstocks are for the manufacturing, for consumer goods. But we got to rebuild manufacturing in this country because we hardly have much of an industry left. Like take machine tools. You got to have machine tools to build the equipment for intermediate goods and consumer goods. And we outsource that now. We got to bring that back. And so what we want are these clean, zero waste, 100% clean powered factories, and we want to place them where they're needed, where people need jobs. And, for example, in fracking is a big deal in Pennsylvania now, and the gas, if it's not coming up to New York to power and heat homes, it's going down. They're building pipelines down to Appalachia, where you'll have frack gas from Ohio and Pennsylvania feeding a huge petrochemical plastics plant, which is a big environmental problem because those plastics are not biodegradable.
Mm.
We could have biodegradable, it doesn't have to be on such a big scale, with agricultural feedstocks, biodegradable plastics, and have a whole green chemistry industry to do that. And these are the kind of things we can put into coal country. And, I've been fighting this since the 70s when I was in the anti-nuclear movement, and industries keep saying, oh, you're taking away jobs. But no, there are a lot more jobs in clean energy than there are in the old fossil fuels.
Mm-hmm.
Coal, if you invest $1 million, you get 7 coal jobs. If you invest $1 million in wind, you get 13 jobs. In solar, you get 14 jobs. In building retrofits, you get 17 jobs. In mass transit and freight rails, so we get a lot of freight off the roads and put them back on the rails, you get 22 jobs. That's where the jobs are.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk to people in coal country that voted for Trump, if they really are worried about economics, we got to answer for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for example, in areas like mine, you're not allowed to build a solar farm or a wind farm at all. It's just against the rules. But oil companies are getting more and more leeway to do whatever they want to the environment. The barrels of oil that they have to report for a spill are increasing. It's absolutely disgusting what's happening. And when you talk the Green New Deal, do you say, one big seismic shift, or is it a set, like, tiered list of legislation? Like, what is the first goal?
Well, what I want to do is form an Office of Climate Mobilization. The equivalent during World War II is the Office of War Mobilization. And that office took over or built a quarter of the manufacturing capacity in order to turn industry on a dime into what they call the arsenal of democracy, in order to arm the Allies to defeat the Nazis. And we need to do at least that much in the public sector to defeat climate change. So that would be something I could, as president, set up as by executive order. And then you go to Congress for appropriations to, build the Green New Deal factories and to plan the various sectors we need, from a smart grid. We want to do publicly owned internet with community control, a federation of these utilities, so everybody has access. That's a big issue in rural America. They don't have access to the internet. And, getting a job. I worked at UPS. You can't apply for a job at UPS now without going on the internet to fill out your application. They don't take paper. And so that's a barrier to a lot of folks getting, that's a union job, and you got security and benefits. And but if you can't get on the internet to apply, you can't get the job. So we want to build out those kinds of things. A lot of it, public energy system, public transportation system, and then public manufacturing but we lease the factories to the workers as co-ops, so the workers can control their labor process and get the full fruit of their labor. In other words, the profits are shared according to how much labor you contribute, rather than going to some absentee owner.